initially thought maybe oil prices would stair-step lower when we started to make headway with Iran and the Straits of Hormuz. And then I later updated my prediction and expectations and said, you know what? I believe now that oil will come down much faster than I thought, because I had to put myself in the mind of a trader, right? Why would anybody want to pay 85 or 80 or even 75 bucks a barrel if the straits were opened? I thought, that's crazy, right? So I amended my call and said oil is going to come off fast. And boy, oh boy, it has. It's come off 30% in price. The Fed's biggest worry has kind of sorted itself out. Even consumers seem to be brushing off that oil price spike as well. So even with the elevated inflation levels, consumer spending for the month came in stronger than expected. Personal consumption expenditures rose 0.7% for the month. Also, gross domestic product, the broadest measure of growth, rose at a seasonally adjusted annualized pace of 2.1% in the first quarter. That's up 0.5% from the prior reading. That's good. So I wanted the thoughts on my next guest on this subject. So please welcome to the show, Mr. Ted Thatcher. Ted, thanks for taking the time today on a Thursday. I was pretty pleased with the slew of numbers that we got this morning. And I agree with you. I think we were talking off air about we're slowly going to start to see these inflation numbers abate because we've seen 30% of the oil price lopped off in about 2 weeks. But it's going to take time. I mean, we're going to see the gas prices at your gas station. They'll come off first, and then slowly but surely the bowling ball will get through that boa constrictor, and you'll start to see the inflation numbers go our way, which leads me to this. What are they smoking at the Fed that thinks that we're going to need to raise rates twice this year?
Man, honestly, Scott, I was going to say the same thing and credit you. You've mentioned it so many times, the boa constrictor, the bowling ball moving through it. I agree. I think in a lot of ways, patience is really the name of the game here. If consumers can just wait a couple months, we've been at this for 4 months with Iran. If we get 2 months into this, I believe we'll make some meaningful progress on those inflation metrics. But to your point, price stability, I think Kevin Warsh said that, 12, 15 times in his first meeting at the Fed, of course, at the helm for the first time. I think what he's looking at is some of these, not just core numbers, but super core numbers. So, of course, for all of our listeners, we have our headline inflation metrics. Then we have our core numbers, which filter out energy and food. And then super core filters out shelter as well. And it really actually focuses not on just goods, but services, which are driven by, of course, labor, a lot of labor costs. And so it seems like he's really I would say, fixated on that. And until we see some of those metrics start to change, which we could talk about, actually, I think we have some good signs. It doesn't look like he's going to be too pleased.
All right, well, then tell me what you're thinking. I mean, what do you think he's seeing?
Yeah, well, I mean, actually, I think that there are positive signs. So even just looking at the supercore numbers on the CPI that we just got, they actually were going down. So I think that there's a little bit of a couple data points that are pointing in the right direction. And ultimately, up until this last meeting, we actually thought we were going to see no change. And for a while, certainly before Iran, rate decreases. And so I've been saying this. Kevin Warsh's first job with his first Fed meeting was to win the credibility of the markets. I think that he couldn't come in there with as dovish an approach as I think a lot of people anticipated, just because I think he needed to be taken seriously. So obviously he's trying to do all these different, looking into all these different categories, the task forces, et cetera. But what it's going to come down to is what he believes price stability means. And obviously we're only one meeting in. We're trying to get a better and better view of that.
So my question last week was, I've never seen the meeting room that they all convene in. Maybe they don't. Maybe it's all remote. I don't know. But there has to be a price screen somewhere, and you have to see while you're making your predictions, oil prices screaming from 105 to 95 to 85 and then through 80. I think about the time he had his meeting, we had a 7 in front of it. You have to start thinking, well, maybe I need to be a little bit cognizant of the fact that there's some things that are changing in real time, and my metrics are stale and they are backward looking. I just said this to Scott Bauer, the guy we had on before you. By claiming that you're going to be data dependent, to me, you're just telling me right to my face, I'm looking out the back window, because all the data is old. There's nothing that's really forward looking that they're really going to be looking at that's going to be giving them a better. So you have to sometimes call an audible and say, look, this oil price, which I'm saying is 90% of our problem in the first place, we just lost a third of it in price. Maybe we should pump the brakes a little bit on these 2 rate hikes before the end of the year. I don't know. To me, it's just that simple. But sometimes, I've been involved with tech companies. I've been in boardrooms before. A lot of people like to sound smart. They like to look smart. They feel kind of good if they address a problem, even though they know it won't happen. They just want to be academic about it. And I think that's what we're getting here.
Yeah, I think too, everybody has made such talking points about the dot plot, right? And, this, no more forward guidance and all these different, things. The truth is, it was widely cited all over X, and everybody wants to fixate just on this one meeting because it's Orsh's first meeting. It's a huge, change. The truth is those data points were collected before we actually saw a lot of the progress that you're referring to on the price of oil. And so, ultimately, I think that the next meeting will actually be more informative, certainly of what the actual world we're living in today is. I think, again, I actually believe rightly it is important for, Chair Warsh to say, okay, I need to win the credibility of the markets. I'm not just going to, jump to, conclusions, if you will, because he's got, both parties, all consumers to think about. But fundamentally, I just don't know how you can watch oil drop by such a precipitous amount so quickly and not think, okay, let's be practical here. Obviously, this has caused a lot of the inflation shock that we've seen, and it's going to move its way through.
Well, I did take one. I'm very happy that we got rid of the Rorschach test. I'm sorry, the dot plot, because that thing was ridiculous. I think it just does a disservice to the business. Anyway, Ted, we're having you back. You're awesome, brother. Ted Thatcher coming to us from Redding, California.